Adventures. It's Thursday night at 8 p.m., 5 p.m. on the West Pacific. I guess I'll say it this time. I haven't broken my protest. I'm just saying it this time.
Oh
Our
yeah, don't
topic
break anything.
today is managing a large collection. Although my notes say plants, and that was last week. Nonetheless, we'll keep going. As always, at the controls, the headmaster of the Chameleon Academy, Bill Strand. All right, there we go. And I'm your host, Sean McNeely. I go as McZoo. At least I go by McZoo. I didn't even read my notes right. So, announcements. About 15 weeks ago, I had a stroke. That is doing much better. I appreciate all the thoughts and prayers. Things are going significantly better. I'm back to work at about 28 hours a week. So, and doing well this week. Hasn't been much of a burden. So, I say that it hasn't been more than I can do. I should say it's been a lot more than it was in the past. How can you reach us? Facebook pages. You can find us on the Chameleon Enthusiasts with 11,000 other people. You can find us on the Reptile Enthusiasts with 500 people. And Exotic Pet Adventures is up to 78 last time I checked.
Woo!
So it's a quiet area where we can all kind of sit down and chat. So appears that almost every post is me posting, but nonetheless, we're going to keep posting away till others start posting there. So um, you can find Instagram Chameleon Academy. You can even uh, what is it? What is it called when you subscribe to the Chameleon Academy on Instagram? There,
That's
or is it the
right.
Reptile? Or is Reptile Entrepreneur have a subscription service as well, or just
It does
Academy?
not.
It does
It
not.
does
Okay,
not as of yet.
all right, and you
I
can
will
find
put
me
that
at.
in once I can support it. But right now, I'm building the Chameleon Academy subscription circle. I'm going to make that into something. And really, I'm experimenting because the industry really doesn't know what to do with it. But that's a
Well,
tangent. You get me talking on that. Well,
I was so excited by it. I subscribed twice under both of my Instagram accounts,
that's right.
and so I'm
Big Sue's
expecting
the real.
twice the content and twice the quality until the end of the month when I end one of them. So I don't know which one I'm going to end, but I'll end one of the two.
Guys, I
But
need at least one more to make up for my double Sean.
so you can find me under McZoo Exotic Pets on Instagram. Vero, you can find me at McZoo Exotic Pet Adventures, and you can find Bill under Bill Strand. No mystery there. Um, all right, so weekend homework. Any weekend homework?
All right, today, this weekend's going to be a low energy one. On Friday, I'm going to have a kind of an admin influencer video going live, and that is to talk about how everything that went into that care sheet, that booklet, care guide that I released last week. And so it's going to be if you
Encyclopedia of Care, I believe it was called.
if you listen to the podcast, it's going to be the video version of that.
Mhm.
And then it's just going to be talking about the back scenes and all of the everything that went into deciding what to put into that care guide, the numbers and such, and some of the struggles that we as educators are working through with the community. And then on Saturday will be noon Pacific time. Then we can we'll do the live and we'll talk about it.
All right, so that sounds exciting. Hi, James Cross. Hi, Steve. Hi, Steph Payne. Um,
That's right. We got a good crew.
we've got a good crew here tonight, so at least important people. So, all right, so let's now talk about managing a large collection.
What? Large collection?
Yes, I don't have a large collection. I don't know if you do, Bill, either. But let's just talk about it anyways, as though we didn't. All right. So first off, you have to enjoy the collection. You can't get a big collection to the point where you're not enjoying it. You and I talked about this on September 22nd. I looked it up. We talked about what it means to have too big a collection. When things are going awry, when things aren't getting done, when you're no longer enjoying it. It's not you can't what's the purpose of a collection? I mean, yes, you can make money off breeding and all that, but if you don't enjoy it, you got to get out. So that's
All right,
that's
but
the
let's
first thing.
say that you have a project, you decide I want to be part of the breeding of this particular species, and for that you need the numbers. And so you have a mission. Now we're talking about you have a mission. It's not just for my enjoyment and it's gotten out of hand. It's I want to be part of a breeding group, and so I need the numbers. How do I make that happen?
Automation. That's how it works.
Automation. Yes, let's talk about that.
Automation. What was that? 1960s. We started talking about automation.
Hey,
um,
Paul.
hey, Paul. There we are. So automation, the first thing you have to know is it doesn't always work correctly because you have to watch it, because you know that if you automate your sprinkling system or your misting system, and you're automating the filling of it, and you're not watching to see that it goes down and fills back up, you may find out that it's not working. So automation saves on time a little bit. It saves on remembering, but you do have to check your automation um, to make sure it's working and that everything is going the way it is. Because if you just worry about the automation and set it there and leave for 6 months, it's not going to work either. So, anyways, all right. So, what kind of things do we use to automate?
Yeah, actually, on that, I say that automation doesn't save you time. It just changes the time that you spend and allows you to choose when you spend that time. So it gives you the freedom of time, not the freedom from putting in the time.
And it helps you enjoy things, though. I think you get to do a little more time. You get a little more time looking at things and spending it because you you're able to you're checking on things and making sure things are working well instead of doing the things that you need to do. So I think it makes, at least it makes my personal enjoyment greater. So
Someone's asking a question. Are we only live on Facebook? We are also live on the Exotic Pet Adventure account on YouTube.
Mhm.
So if you want to find that account, you can go on YouTube.
All right. And if you don't know, you need to identify yourself on Facebook because Facebook doesn't let us know who you are,
Yes,
um,
right.
for your security.
YouTube
uh,
does, though.
the rest of the world, is unsafe, but Facebook, for your security, doesn't let
Yeah,
us know who you are
ironically,
because
Facebook.
Bill and I are very nefarious people. And if we find out who you are on Facebook, we may do something. If we find out who you are on YouTube, it won't matter. Anyways, okay. So, first thing I think of when I think of automation is timers.
Mhm.
What's necessary in a good timer, Bill?
Well, first of all, it's getting the right timer, and I just go for grounded timers all around. And this is generally speaking, with the timers, I like we do a lot with appliance timers. They give you that 15-minute intervals. And I think what we in the community need to realize is that a number of our products come with something called a cyclic timer, which is something where you choose how long you want it to go off and how long between sessions you want it. So there's no sense of time, the absolute time, just on time spent. And so these things will do something every 4 hours or every 8 hours. And the problem with that is that you can't do any of the fine the fine adjustments like I have on my care guides. You can't really do that with the cyclic timers, and our foggers are very good. We're having the cyclic timers, and so you need to get the appliance timers to run the products that have the cyclic timers.
So, someone's saying the chat is disabled on YouTube. Um, Bummer.
Well, that isn't cool. That
I
is
guess
unexpected.
I'm gonna have to look at the YouTube account when we get done to make sure it's disabled, but I don't know if we have time to do that now. We'll just kind of keep going.
Well, I can take a
I
look
like,
at. Thank you for letting us know, by the way.
yes, thank you. I like timers that are battery backup, that when it shuts off, it keeps going. And I like timers with multiple events. So I like digital ones. I have a particular one and model that I like because it's got battery backup. It's digital. It has 8 different times on and time off, and you can, and like he said, you can use timers that have minutes, seconds, hours, and what have you. The ones you use for misters, and the Miss King one that is most favorite of all of us, is it gives you like started at 10 o'clock and
Yeah.
go for 2 minutes. Those are the kind of things that are really awesome. So, but timers aren't everything, because timers still need to be checked. They still need, when we change our clocks, you need to make sure you've changed your timers, or have a timer that changes its timer as the clocks change. But I warn you that right now the changes of the clocks are going to maybe change and maybe not even exist. So getting a timer that changes automatically may be a downfall at this point, because there's a bill in Congress to talk about that. I don't know much about it other than it says that we're going to stay on one time only. But nonetheless, okay. So anything more about timers, Bill? I know you're
Yeah,
looking
I
at your
don't care about this change in time, whether we're
notes.
daylight savings or standard.
Mhm,
I just leave my timers the way they are. We go into winter, and the days are too short anyways, so
mhm.
yeah, I
All
don't
right,
care if it's 8 o'clock or
there you
seven
go.
o'clock.
All right, that's a second opinion. All right, so misters are important. If you're misting anything, automatic misters
Can I
are
just
important.
take this
Good.
question here? We'll get
Mhm.
that out of the way.
Oh,
What do you guys think about the Herpstat system? Uh, the what I like about the Herpstat and for everybody, the Herpstat system is an automated system where it measures temperature, humidity, and then it
mhm,
has an adjustable output. And I will say this is done by someone who's in the community, and so you can find it like I think it like at Pangea, and just look up Herpstat. Triple L has them at times. Vivarium Electronics. And the best thing about I love about the Herpstat is that it will allow you to control humidity with a daytime humidity and a nighttime humidity, and that's the one thing we're missing off of all of these. Every other automated system is
wow,
it won't allow you to do a day and nighttime humidity, day and nighttime temperature, but not day and nighttime humidity. So
which
I'm
is
talking
very
from a
important
chameleon.
for
Yeah.
chameleons. Not every reptile needs that, but for chameleons. So as a whole, that's a good thought. I didn't know much about that. I don't have to look into that. All right, so misters,
Misters.
important. If you're going to be misting things, hand misting large collection can get a little time consuming and make your hand wear out, which uh, after my stroke, I don't have a lot of hand strength to do that all day. So I don't think I did before. Um, so Miss King and Climist, I didn't put it in my notes, but Climist are the two big ones. Those
Yep.
are the main systems. Those are very good. They're just not much more expensive than all the other systems. So if you're going to miss more than a couple cages and you're going to do up to, I don't know, 20, 100, 300, or whatever. Though you might need to get more than one misting system, but or climate system, but those are very good. With that, you need to think about the seconds timer. Both of them, the systems come with those type of things. Nozzles are important. Get the right nozzles and make sure that you're getting nozzles and that are safe and effective. Here's Bill. What do you got now? High
I am going
pressure.
to try this. This is a Reptizoo
Mhm,
Mister, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to recommend this, but I got it so I can test it. It
mhm,
looks, I have heard that it is okay, and so we're going to try it. The one thing, it doesn't have the seconds timer. It's got the cyclic timer, just like
mhm.
everything you're
Uh-oh.
going to get out of China.
Uh-oh.
And
Can we put a cyclic timer on it, or a seconds timer on it somehow? I guess it wouldn't. If it's
we
cyclic, you're
can
not gonna
it
change it.
probably will allow me, if I put the cycle at 0, then it
Mhm,
will just go on
mhm,
and just keep going on. And so just like the foggers, I mean, it's the exact same timer as the foggers. So
mhm.
we could put an appliance timer on it and just make it go off at certain intervals. But like I said, obviously it's still in the box. And so I need to
Yes.
try it out.
That's a project for you to get to. Since you're gonna have a light weekend, you should probably be able to get to that. So we'll talk about
Yeah.
that next week. I'll put that first in my notes for next week to talk about how that system works.
Well, hey, some Facebook user says I had that one before.
Yeah.
Facebook user, let me know what you think. Please give me your review, a brief review in the chat. I'd like to hear what you have to say.
All right. So we covered timers, or we covered misters. We covered timers. Fogging. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
when it gets to fogging, individual cages you can fog with a single thing. Multiple cages you can actually extend the fogger to go to multiple cages, two, three, four cages. But then when you get beyond that, you need something bigger. Um, I've got something I built in my basement with what's the name of that company that we got it from, Bill? Um, the fogger company.
Oh, yes. We all know this. We all know this.
Fog, some kind of
House
fog.
of
House of Hydro. House of
Hydro.
Hydro.
There we go.
Yeah, sells the fogging type thing. It's essentially the same thing they use for um, dance halls and things like that. You use discs, they create fog, and then you let the fog go. You blow it with the fan, and you let the fog go to all the different things. I've got, I think, 25 cages. Not that I have 25 cages in my house. 25 cages on a or nozzles, I should say, on a single 12 disc system, and it's not even pushing it. So I could probably put 50 or more on there. So
All right.
that's
That's
really
pretty good.
easy. The problem with that is you got to make sure that the reservoir fills up automatically, and that when it you need to watch it though. I turn off the automatic fill every couple days and watch it go down to make sure it's actually working, because I'm fogging at night and I'm not down there. Um,
Yep.
on the other hand, you can just take a look at the cages, and especially when the heat's on the house, and tell that the cages have been fogged because there's moisture in there, and it's not all
Hmm.
dried out, and nothing's peeling, and the animals aren't looking at you with the thirst that you can't stop. So what have you. So that's where drippers come in. Drippers are a great backup. You can put a dripper. I don't know that is there an automated dripping type system? I guess some people use the ones that are for the lawn or the yard or what have you, but nothing really that drips and shows the way you drip and to give you a good idea. So, um,
Yeah, you can use drippers like from the drip systems, the quarter-inch tubing drip systems you get at Home Depot and such, and just like a drip system like you would in your garden.
mhm. Or you can take a 32 ounce container and put a hole in it and put it on top. Or
Yeah.
one of my favorites, you can take an ice cube and put it on the top next to the light. Not in the light, not on the light, but next to the light, and it just melts and it drips. And by the time it gets down to the pet, it's a little warmer, so it can be that way. And so that's the poor man's uh, dripping system is an ice cube. But and I know there's probably some negatives about that, but it seems to have worked for me so far.
I like to use party cups.
There you go. I know you like to use party cups, but for drippers, you mean, or? All right, Bill the party man. We know he's out there
Oh yeah,
partying. That's why
that's
I'm
right.
wearing a hat today. He was up late last night partying, and he just what have you.
Yeah,
So
past up past 9 o'clock.
yes. Oh wow, past 9 o'clock. Well, that's midnight on the East Coast, so I guess that's okay. So the next thing, food. You need to buy in bulk, probably.
Oh boy.
You need to rotate the types of food, make sure it's easy to feed. Um, and as a whole, having a large collection of the same stuff is much easier than having a large collection of multiple things. If you have multiple things, they really should be compatible to some extent. Like my my herbivores eat the same thing as my crickets and other bugs. So I can feed them all the same stuff and it makes it easier. If I had things that needed that, I had silkworms, and I knew have them, but if I had silkworms and that was my only feeder, that would be difficult because the silkworm chow is something that's unique to the silkworms, and it couldn't feed anything else. So um, I encourage that you have the same general type of things from the same areas. I've got things from the same probably distance from the equator. I've got things from South America and Africa, but just the same strip along the equator there. Because if you have dry, arid environment things and moist and humid things together, you're going to have a nightmare keeping these things going and running. So um, that's my advice. People don't take it all the time. People do what they need to do. I actually have the a different stuff. I've got bearded dragons upstairs, and instead of my reptile room downstairs with the uh, with the foggers and the misters and what have you, because that's a little much for them. But anyways, so that was my next comment, was keep, pets that you can feed together all at once the same way. You talked about supplements, I think, on one of the, I think it was probably on your private thing, so I shouldn't be talking about it. But you talked about supplements being made for all reptiles, but you still, every reptile might need different supplements, might need a different schedule, and supplements have never been really tested for individual or reptiles or exotic pets. So you can't really rely on it, but I guess you really can't use the same ones, or using the same schedule is a good idea to have all of your reptiles on the same schedule if it's possible. Now I've got montane and non-montane, so the schedule has to be either montane, which is a lower schedule,
Mhm.
or I do it differently for the others. But that's still important. Um, that leads me to alarms. You need to give yourself alarms, like on your phone or what have you, to tell you what's going on and watch things and track things and keep the dates. I have a what's we call a Groot alarm, because Groot was my first gecko, and at 6:30 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, the Groot alarm goes off. I go into the fridge, I get out the gecko food, I put it into the different geckos, and now I have like 7 or 8 of them. So not that I have that many out of my house, but I have to mix those up, and I put them in 3 times a week. And then on the weekend, I ended up feeding them bugs. So that's the way that goes. So I think that works out well. It reminds me, it started off as my wife was feeding the gecko originally, and she had a Groot alarm at 6:15, and it went off 3 days a week, and I just kind of took that over, and as I added more and more. But I think that's important to have alarms and ways of knowing. I have a calendar on my iPhone that is my reptile calendar. I put down whenever I supplement. I put down when it's time to feed, and when I fed different things, so I can keep track. So I think that's also important to have alarms and use your electronics similarly. Bill, do you do anything like that, or?
Uh, right now, I'm flying by the seat of my pants as far as that, and I
Well, we
every
knew you
day
were
I
a
go out,
partier, so you
I
and the
go out and
solo
I
cup
feed a
flying by
certain
the seat of your
species.
pants, right? All right.
So yeah,
All
well,
right.
here we have a this is Paul is let's see, is suggesting that we breed our own. Do you breed your own food?
Are you asking Paul? Or are you asking me?
I'm
I
asking you, Sean. What do you do
I
about food?
I breed some of my own food. I used to breed silkworms. I've been breeding what do they call them? Super worms.
Superworms?
I sort of bred crickets a little bit, but crickets I get as a from a supplier that has me as a breeder for the supplier. I actually get them from Gons, and they give me a huge discount because I'm talking on, on different things about them. I think that's why and I sell things to people. So I had to go through the stages of the cross to get to be that breeding thing, but I got there, and I have it. I don't know if they even offer that anymore, but yes. What else do I breed? I used to breed mice. What else? Nothing else at this point. I used to grow my own food. I used to grow my own
Nice.
vegetables, my collard greens, what have you. But you can't grow enough. I actually go down to the, like I said before, I go down to the West Side Market and I buy it in bulk. They get me boxes of spring mix, boxes of collard greens, boxes of all the different greens you can get, turnip greens, dandelion greens. I go through just tons of that stuff. So they give me a great bulk price, which I can't get anywhere else. But um, actually, I hooked what's his name, Tom, up with the same guy I had there, so he could get some more of that stuff. So um, find yourself a group of people that are at a what do you call it, a market where they're a farmers market, and figure out how you can get good deals.
Yeah, I breed dubia.
Mhm. That's what I should be doing. I keep trying to breed dubia, but I get distracted, and and I end up just not ignoring them. So I don't know why. Dubia are hard for me to do. I don't know what it is with it,
Yeah,
but
well, they're better than crickets. I hate crickets.
I understand that. I go through cricket so fast that there there are difficulties trying to not be so difficult because I get different ones every week, and so the longest I ever have crickets is a week. So cleaning out their containers and what have you. Which is another thing. Cleaning stuff. When you have cricket containers and you have dubia containers and you have food bowls and water bowls and what I call poop dishes for iguanas because they poop in their water dish. Um, Cleaning them out, having multiple of them. I actually have containers where I have one container has bleach in it, the next container has water, kind of like they do professional dishwashing at some of the old-fashioned restaurants. And then I dry them in the same area. So it's kind of a way to do things in bulk because if I didn't do it in bulk, I'd go through so much bleach that life would be difficult. And bleach is more expensive. Bleach has doubled in cost since the pandemic. So um,
Stephanie's
heat
asking
strips are the secret to dubia. Okay, I guess I need to do that.
keep them at the right temperature. That's the secret.
I need to
Um,
have I have heat strips in a drawer somewhere downstairs, but
well, I gotta do better with my production, and the heat I know is the problem because I know it's they're too cool. But I enjoy keeping them bioactive. I keep them on soil and with cork bark and leaf litter, and it works really well for me. But I need it. It's the heat, and I just have never worked with heat strips. I know everybody tells me that. Alicia's been trying to get me to do it right, but
there you
I
go again. We're mentioning Alicia. I think we mention her every
we
week.
have to. We have to. But this time we're not razzing her.
Right?
We're talking
Wait a
about
minute.
her
We
expertise.
need to razz her this week because
Yeah,
that's
so I
part
don't
of the
know that
whole
this
thing.
counts.
All right. Yeah. All right. So she didn't change her last name again, so we can keep talking about her. All right. So what else do we talk about? Um,
Well, I need to bring up if you are going to have a large collection, you need to be uh, uh, obsessive about your electricity. Be very careful that you don't overload your system, that you don't get close to overloading your system. It's time to start adding up watts and know how much you're drawing with all of the lights. You add on another rack, and that's another set of lights. I mean, if it's heat lamps, it's got daylight, UVB, misters. You know, the mister and the fogger don't draw a whole lot, but those lights they add up really quick, and so make sure that your system can handle that. And remember, if you have 4 outlets in your room, but they're all hooked to the same circuit breaker, you don't
Mhm.
have 4 different sources of electricity there. That's the
Right.
same electricity, and
So
so.
basically, a 20 amp fuse on a 12-2 wire can take 2400 watts before it blows.
But also
And
remember, how many rooms is that circuit breaker driving?
right, so if you turn off the circuit breaker and look at everything that's off, that's all the same circuit. I know there's
Yeah.
fancy gizmos that you can put in plugs and put them in the circuit, and it can tell you which one it is. But realistically, if you turn off the circuit, you plug everything in, and you figure out where it's at. You need to count everything on that plug and how many watts it's running. And it can take 2400 watts. but you need to probably stay under 2,000 to keep yourself safe, unless there's a surge, especially when there's a surge,
Yeah.
and
So
especially when you plug something in that you didn't think about and you didn't count it. So, um, lights are a lot of things. So a 4 foot four
and
bulb
I gotta say,
HO light. Go ahead.
when it comes to electronics, don't go cheap. Don't go to Amazon and get the cheapest thing you can find out of China. You get the expensive one, and don't if you get ones out of your box, don't use those because a fire can happen when we're dealing with all of this electricity, and then there's water that's spraying all over the place. And yeah, okay, it's controlled when it's doing what it's supposed to, but all it takes is something to go wrong. I mean, we have earthquakes here in California, or a dog goes by and just brushes up against something, or a kid changes something. Whatever happens can have disastrous results when you start working with electricity. So be very careful about that. Um,
So, like, as you speak, a 4 foot four bulb HO thing, the ones that we mostly have or used to have, is 216 watts. You can
it
only
adds
put like
up.
10 of those on a single circuit, without anything else. You can't have the clock plugged in. You can't have anything plugged in. It adds up
A little
quickly.
mini fridge. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So
And
I put that, I calculated that out. Actually, I thought I had the 15 amp fuses because I have a lot of those as well, which is a lot less. You can only look it up. It's on Google and Dogpile and whatever other um, search engine you're using, but all of them say the same thing. Make sure you look it up in three sources so that you figure out that it's right. But that'll give you the number. You don't have to be an electrician to get figure this out, but you do need to. And plus, you should be able to look at your wires and tell what wires it is. It tells you which wire you could use. Um, Nowadays people are using 14 tube wire or 14 3 wire, which is so much less than 12 2 wire, but you can only use 14 2 wire on a 15 amp fuse. But don't take that for definitive. Look it up yourself, but that's actually something I'm aware of. So
And then the on the other side of putting together a reptile room and all of these lights is that every time you add a rack, you add lights and all of that, you change the environment in your room. You change your temperature, your ambient temperature in the room. And so you got to be very careful when you have like montane uh, species, whether chameleons, geckos, or anything else. If you got a montane room, you need to make sure that all of those lights don't
overheat
don't
your
make
whole room.
a bad environment.
Yeah. The other thing is fogging. I started adding creatures and adding fog and adding more and adding more. And one night I went down at 2 o'clock in the morning and my whole room was full of fog and it was raining. And I was like, oh, I think I need to I need to back off on. And so I started separating out and putting 2 and 3 cages on each fogger and what have you. But you can get those. You can get any what are they called? They're cool mist humidifiers, and set them up as a fogger. Usually it's 3/4 inch pipe or some kind of adaptation to it, and just pipe it to anything. But you have to make sure that you're setting it down lower, and that you're watching how much fog you're putting into the house, because you can ruin the whole house. You
Mhm.
can ruin the drywall. You can ruin the ceiling. You don't want to have to be binning that or removing it because you've got mold or mildew that developed in a couple days. Luckily, I didn't get to that point, so I went down and unfortunately, did that. But anyways, okay. So what else about a big crew?
Oh, at that point, it's just time management. And I think having a schedule and knowing what you do when is important because it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And and the schedule helps you maintain
I
some
used to actually
sanity.
have a sheet of paper, a half sheet of paper that went through all the different things I needed to do in the day. And I just printed a bunch of them up and I scratched it off every day to make sure that I actually fed everybody and did everything. Now I've kind of gotten a little better about it, but But still, it's a good idea to have something to remind you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's it that comes to mind. The only other thing is that if you have a large group of breeders, you better be preparing for a larger group of baby cages,
Because they all
and
come
that
at
cannot.
once, and they all hatch at the same time, no matter when they're bred, and always when
Yeah,
you're going
it's
on
very easy
vacation.
to say, all right, I have this amount of room, and so I have this, and so I can fill it up with this many breeders, and not realize that the result of that is you're going to have a whole lot of babies. Where are you going to put the babies? And if you're thinking, oh, okay, I'll just, if you're not thinking about it, what you'll end up doing is throwing them all in a bin. And that is, depending upon the species. And with chameleons, that's not good. You need to be serious about your nursery setup. Uh, when you're planning, before you even do any breeding, you need to be serious about that nursery setup.
And before you even do that, you need to figure out where you're going to do with all these creatures, because selling them
That.
is not as easy as you think. You need to start 18 months in advance, starting to talk about these things. You need to follow them through the getting them hooked up, and following the eggs and what have, or the live births, and showing them often, so that when it comes time to sell them to someone, there are people waiting in line. That
Hmm.
doesn't work when you're trying to, oh, hey, I'm Sean McNeely, and I started breeding chameleons 18 months ago, and here they are. And it takes a lot more work than that to get them sold. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're underselling, and you're selling them for dirt cheap, and you're ruining the market for the rest of us. So and that's unfortunate, because people will stop selling them, people will stop breeding them, and then we'll have no captive bred anymore. So it's not that we're trying to make $1 billion, because there's no money really in, or very little money in breeding things the right way. It's just that you've got to head make a couple $100 off everything, that
Hmm.
in the sense of, because that's what it costs you to breed them and feed them while you're waiting for them to get big.
Yeah, yeah, and it's yeah, we're getting into a whole nother topic here, but if you want to be a breeder, you're not doing anybody any favors by selling them cheap, least of all you. And you're not doing any favors for the animal. And, you're really not doing any favors for the person buying it, because you're letting them think that this is an animal, and it's not. Any reptile, we shouldn't, our reptiles shouldn't be cheap enough that somebody can just pick it up without thinking about it. So, um, yeah, okay, that's a totally different topic.
All right, yeah. So we've gone from a large collection to breeding them, but um, Bill, I appreciate your time tonight, and talking about this topic. It's fun to talk about. It's something to think about. We've given people, I think, something to really think about, and we've given you some homework, because you're going to have to use that specific. Uh, I guess it was a misting system, and tell us about it.
Yep, yep. Got to
We'll
tell
give you
you.
2 weeks. We'll give you 2 weeks. Next week, I'm going to ask you about it and find out what happened. And if not, we'll give you one more week after that. But
Okay.
we can go from there. All right. Someone said, great topic, guys. So appreciate it. One of those Facebook users. Unfortunately, even when you tell us who you are, the second time you put a comment in, we can't read it as you. So, but we appreciate that. And we'll have a good night. Thanks, everybody.
All right.